Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Play Some Video Games, the only gaming podcast now featuring full support for VR headsets. So there you go. It is I, your host, Kevin, as always. Joining us at the big boy table this week is Nathan. How we doing, Nathan?
Good. I'm a big boy.
Yay! And Seth is here as well.
Howdy.
And last but certainly not the least, Sir Kyle, how art thou?
I'm great. Super stoked to be with Seth, even though he doesn't sound excited.
I'm excited. It's just 10 o'clock at night.
Seth never really sounds excited, to be honest, though, but he's happy to be here, I'm sure.
Yes.
So let's dive right in and catch everybody up with what we've been up to. And Nathan, since you've been MIA, I think, for the longest here, why don't you go ahead first and catch us up? What have you been up to?
Oh, not a whole lot, but I did a little bit of traveling, so I was out of town for a bit and didn't give a lot of gaming time. But what I did get time for since we last recorded, I can't remember, did I do a Firewatch review since we last recorded?
It was after we had recorded.
Okay, so I played through Firewatch for review, wrote that up for the website, so you can check that out, get my full thoughts there. That was a cool little indie project, which, hint, hint, wink, wink, maybe we'll talk about it later. And then I also played a lot of Destiny in the past few weeks because a good buddy of mine bought me the expansion of that, and I have been playing through that, the Rise of Iron content now. So it's a lot of the same, with Destiny. I don't know, Kyle, have you played Destiny?
I played Vanilla Destiny for maybe 12 hours.
Okay, so you know exactly what Destiny is about then if you played it for 12 hours. It's more of the same of that. I mean, it's not like the Rise of Iron expansion is not as good as the Fallen or the Taken King expansion. The Taken King just had a lot more depth to it, I felt, but Rise of Iron, it gets us playing again, which I guess is a good thing, and that's like the biggest thing that they want you to do, but I don't know, it's not grabbing me like the Taken King did, but I'm still happy to go play with my buddies, so that's cool. And actually, one thing happened where it was like 6 of us on, and we were all in the same clan, and that hasn't happened since like launch, so that was pretty fun. And other than that, I've also been playing Forza Horizon 3, which I know Donnie talked at length about that in the last episode, so I won't dive into it terribly, but I wanted to say that this game was also given to me by a great friend, so I wanted to thank that person as well, and I love this game, you guys. It's it's good. I like it a lot. But
Finger looking good?
Finger looking good indeed. In fact, actually, yesterday I booted up my computer because I have a Windows 10 computer, and I was given the digital copy of it, so I installed it on my Windows 10 computer, and eventually I want to check it out and see how it looks on my PC because my PC has a GTX 970 card in it, and it has 32 gigs of RAM. So it should be good enough to run this thing, and I got an i7 processor. So it should put out pretty good quality pictures, so I wanted to combine, or kind of get the feel for what the Play Anywhere looked like with that. So I'll be testing that at some point soon in the near future. But, you know what else I've been testing out? In fact, I took a gamble before I left. I was leaving for a flight at 5 o'clock in the evening, and at 1 o'clock, I decided to stop by and get my new iPhone that came in, and switched with 4 hours before my flight. That was a risky move.
I was going to say, that's brave.
Yeah, but I really wanted to take the new phone. I wanted to use the cameras and stuff, because I got the iPhone 7 Plus, and I got it for the new camera, and I have to say that it takes spectacular pictures. Really, I mean, they rival Forza Horizon 3 screenshots. It looks fantastic. So, I do not regret that, but I kind of, looking back, I'm like, man, I copied everything over. I did my backup and then pulled everything back down. When I first started the restore, it was going to take like 4 hours. And I was like, oh no. But then it eventually said, oh, hey, you got fast internet, and knocked it down to like 45 minutes. And I'm like, okay, cool.
No, nice.
So I was able to pull all 100 and some gigs down to my new phone, and was able to leave on time. But I didn't get any mobile gaming done. I wanted to play. I've had was it Hitman Go on my phone for a long time, and I wanted to try it, but I still haven't had a chance to. I take that back. I just didn't want to. Because I was on the plane and I definitely had a chance to. I don't know. Mobile games just do not stick with me. I'd rather just listen to podcasts or music or read a comic book, watch a movie on a flight. But it's gaming. I don't know if it's just the desire not to waste my battery in case I need it or what. But I mean, I got a phone that could, adequately handle it. So I was kind of wanting to test it out to see how it looked. But I don't know. Have you guys played those Go games yet?
I played Hitman Go on Vita, and it was fantastic.
So you recommend at least trying it? I'm sure.
Yeah, I definitely would give it a shot for sure.
On Vita, was it touchscreen stuff or was it using controller?
I think you could do either, if I recall. I could be wrong about that, but I think you could do either one.
Okay. So, what did you play it with the touchscreen?
I don't think I did.
Okay.
I played it on iPhone with touchscreen, and I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I mean, I think it was made, came out on mobile first. I think it was made for touchscreen.
Okay. So, are you telling me that I should eventually just try this thing and get it off my plate of my backlog?
Yep.
Cool. Okay, I need to give it a shot because I do know that those Go games have been getting a lot of praise because there's a Tomb Raider Go and a Deus Ex Go and a Pokemon Go. That's right. Okay, but that's about it for me. I mean, I've taken up enough time at this point, so I will pass it on to another gentleman.
Ooh, let's see. What gentleman should we go with? Seth, why don't you catch us up with what you've been up to? I think your list is a little long here looking at your print up.
Yeah, I've played quite a few different things, but they've all been, for the most part, shorter things. I guess I'll start on PlayStation 4. Still trucking along with NBA 2K17 with my franchise or GM mode with my created Cincinnati Sunset Riders. I have the third episode is up on the YouTube channel right now, and I'm working on putting together the next couple episodes here. And so I've been playing quite a bit of that. Also last week I dove into Dear Esther, or earlier this week, which is I don't know if it was really their first game, but it's the earlier game for the Chinese Room, who did Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I think they did one of the Amnesia games also. But I played Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, which I really liked, and I like that style of games. I really like Firewatch and so on, and so I thought that I would dive into Dear Esther, and I didn't like it very much.
You're putting it nicely.
Yeah, the distance has lessened my ire, I guess. But it's a short game. It took me a little over an hour. The whole playthrough is up on YouTube. If you watch it, the first half of the game, I don't really say a whole lot. Then I start talking to myself quite a bit, just because I was bored. And it just is so slow, and there's nothing to do. And I know that there are some hidden secrets and things you can find in there, but I just had trouble. Most of the parts that I could see out, you're kind of on rails. You just go up a path and you can't really venture too far off. The times I tried to venture off somewhere else, I fell off a cliff or sunk underwater or something. And the ending of the story was okay, was interesting, and made the rest of the story interesting. And there are theories about what it's about. Has anybody else played Dear Esther?
Negative.
Nope.
No. So I mean, the story ended up being kind of interesting, but the getting to the interesting part was boring, and I was falling asleep during it. And I was glad that it was only an hour. I am glad that I played it because in a lot of ways, I think the more recent Firewatch and, certainly the Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and Gone Home and a bunch of other games like that, I think Dear Esther sort of jump started that trend, and probably if I had played it 8 years ago when it was a mod for whatever game it was a mod for, I probably would have liked it a lot more. But just playing it now, it just didn't hit me. I'm also working on Dead Synchronicity that just came out this week, and that's kind of slow going. It's a point and click adventure game that takes place. You're the main character. You're this guy named Michael who wakes up after this apocalyptic catastrophe has happened, and you don't know who you are or how you got there. And it's just about, so far, Michael is trying to figure out who he is and what's going on in the world. I'm not the greatest at kind of old school point and click adventure games. The voice acting in this game is pretty terrible.
Way to sugarcoat that. Very appreciated.
Well, it's like humorously terrible. And the story is kind of interesting, but where I run into roadblocks a lot with these kind of games where, you have to go and talk to the woman who's smoking, and she wants you to bring her some food. Well, in order to get food, you have to pick up the cigarettes off the ground and then get the bottle of whiskey that's under the trash can lid and take it to the bar so you can barter with those two things. So he'll give you a pack of food so you can go to where the smoking woman is, and so that she'll give you the pass to get out of the city. And it's just like, well, how are you supposed to know how to talk to all these different people in this specific order?
Well, it sounds like a Friday night to me. I mean, geez.
I was gonna say that sounds perfectly reasonable. I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah.
Right. So that's slow going. It's interesting, and so that's keeping me going because I am interested in the story. But we'll see. The good thing for me is that it has already been out, I think, on PC, so there are guides. So as I get lost, the one I'm in the city now, and there's one part where you have to go. I just had to go to this like park area and get a board that was hanging on a tree stump, and then I had to go into the church nearby and tip up a statue and put the wooden board underneath the statue to prop it up. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to know to do all that, but anyway, we're getting there. Other than that, on 3DS, been doing more Mario Kart and Animal Crossing, and then played some Tecmo Bowl on the Virtual Console, and then also jumped into Gunman Clive 1 and 2, which it might be my favorite game, or pair of games, whatever, on the 3DS that I've played so far. I just really like it. It's a side-scrolling, Western-themed platformer with some shooting and a little bit with the bosses, maybe a little bit Mega Man kind of bosses, although it's these huge bosses that you're fighting against. And it's not a long game. It's, I think, the first run through for both of them. Gunman Clive 1 was about an hour. The sequel is about an hour and a half. And then you have some different characters that have different abilities that you can try it again that, add an extra half hour to an hour of playtime. I think combined they cost $5 on 3DS. And I know they're on Wii U and I think on PC also. So I've really enjoyed those games, just kind of throwback. And they look really good on 3DS. So that's my week in gaming.
Cool. Sounds good. Then we forgot to mention too, it's quite the monumentous occasion because we have all the members of the PlayStation Isle here.
Yes.
We've allowed an infiltrator from the Empire to come on the show this week with us. So we are granting him a pass as long as he behaves himself currently.
As long as you guys realize that I have my papers in order, they are filed, and I have diplomatic immunity.
Yes. Yes, he does. But we're keeping a close eye on him. But while we do that, Kyle, why don't you give us an update? What have you been up to?
Actually, a lot of gaming has happened, but it's been a lot of bite-sized short games. So finished up this nice little well, I shouldn't say nice. This interesting, we'll say, little adventure game called Jazz Punk. You will be hearing at some point there will be a review cast coming out for that, as Kevin and I have recorded one, and Kevin did a review on the blog. So I'm not going to say much about it other than this is an interesting game. It definitely does some things very uniquely. Kevin and I had a really good discussion about it. I definitely disagree with Kevin's score on the game, but I do think it is a game worth playing. So I'll say that much. So definitely check out Kevin's review. It's a bit of an older game, and this is kind of the director's cut. I don't know what's different from the original game to this one, but it's an interesting little adventure game, so I would definitely check that out. One of the games that's the current hotness and kind of fits into our indie theme of the day is this another game called Virginia, which Kevin also did a review for, and we also recorded a review cast for, so that'll be coming out soon. This is a game I do recommend. I don't want to give you too much, or I'm not going to talk too much about it just because there's a lot of opportunity for you to check it out on the site, and then there will be a review cast coming. But this game I do recommend for sure. Kind of an indie darling that's going around right now. It has gotten everywhere from a 3 from professional critics to a 9. So it's kind of all over the place. It definitely does some things unique that we don't see in video games. It is kind of one of those quote-unquote walking simulator style games, is that, you know, all you're doing is moving with the analog sticks and occasionally interacting with things with the extra cross button. But yeah, it's pretty solid. So I would encourage you to check that out. If you have doubts about it, you know, listen to that review cast when it comes out, or check out Kevin's review on the website because it's pretty great. In addition, I finally finished the game Strike Vector X, and I played some multiplayer of it with Nathan on PlayStation 4. That is right. Nathan was on PS4. We played some Strike Vector X together. It was pretty great. So
I have thoughts on that game that I don't think you share.
Well, I haven't. That's very possible. I meant the part that was great was getting to play with you, Nathan.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, that was the part that was great. I have some thoughts on the game. I'm finishing up the review for that, so that'll be out maybe even by the time this podcast is up. It's an interesting game. It definitely has a specific audience that it's going for. So look for more for that. So that is also finished. And then finally, well, kind of finally, this is finally on PS4. I have started this little game called Zenith. I'm not going to say too much about Zenith, other than because I will finish this game and I will write a review for it. But this game delivers dialogue, but there's no voice acting, so everything is just a dialogue box that pops up. And the second dialogue box that popped up, I screenshotted the game because I was like, man, this dialogue box probably 100% encapsulates what this game is going to be. And so far, it completely has. And that's probably not a great thing. So much more to see on that down the line. It's a little action-adventure game, kind of similar potentially to things like Diablo, but I think so far it's pretty much just single player. You do have a small party and things, but more coming on that down the line. But this game, I'm gonna have some things to say about it. And finally, Mafia 3 is just sitting there waiting for me. It unlocked Thursday night, and I was at a conference for work, and then I got home from the conference and jumped right into podcasting pretty much. So I've not gotten a chance to play it yet, but I'm pretty stoked to jump into Mafia 3. And because all of you people talk about all of your Nintendo stuff so much, I dusted off the old 3DS.
Yay!
And played a few Nintendo games.
What do you mean, you people?
Okay, you're right. Not Nathan. Everyone else. If anybody could ever see our team chat, my goodness. So much Nintendo talk. But I dusted off the 3DS, played a little Mario Golf. It's fine. You know, it's not too bad. But I also downloaded and started playing Super Mario 3D Land, and that game is pretty fantastic. It's a lot of fun. It's a little easier than I thought it was going to be. I think I'm in World 6 right now, and I have probably 55 lives or so. So it hasn't been too challenging. I've gotten to collect the 3 stars in almost every level so far, so I haven't had too much of a challenge with it, but it has been a good time. I've really enjoyed my time with it. So it's kind of nice to dust that 3DS off, play a little bit, but I feel like that's going to be going back to the backseat for a little while because there are definitely some Vita games that are waiting for me that I really want to get into that I haven't yet. So, and then on a side little note, have been working on, in the board game world, have been working on the campaign for Mice and Mystics, which, if you're not familiar, is a nice little dungeon crawler game from Plaid Hat Games. So I think it's a 12-chapter game. I think we're in chapter 7 right now, playing that one with the wife. So it's an enjoyable, fun little game where you play mice who are roaming around a castle trying to accomplish, basically following a storyline into trying to accomplish these tasks. And you fight all sorts of wretched creatures like spiders and centipedes and rats and things like that. So it's a nice little time, fun little story. The story behind the game is actually quite touching. The guy who designed it actually designed it to help his children learn to read better. So it's actually a pretty cool little story about how the game was designed, and it is a really fun game as well. And one of the most highly anticipated board games of the year, Seafall, arrived at my door today. So I'm pretty stoked to play this. This is the next game from Rob Davio, who is best known for the Legacy games, looking at Pandemic Legacy, Risk Legacy, things like that. Seafall is his first standalone Legacy game, i.e. that it's not tied to some other property. And it's also, where Pandemic was a cooperative game, this is not a cooperative game. So I'm pretty excited to play it. The one downfall to the game, it is a 3-player minimum game, and you typically have to have the same group. Well, you pretty much have to have the same group for the entire playthrough. So I do have a couple friends lined up to play through this with that are going to play with my wife and I, but trying to get us all together to finish this game because it takes at least 12 playthroughs, and they're each 2 to 3 hours, might be a bit of a task. So I'm excited to jump into it, really looking forward to it. So I was really happy to see that when I got home today. But so expect more on that in the future, spoiler free, of course, because this is a board game you can actually spoil.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. All right, well, I guess it's my turn. So let's see. Been very busy, so I guess the best way to sum up work this week is okay, hold on, bear with me here. I don't know if you can hear that. That's the sound of me pouring a beer. And that's pretty much how my week's been at work. So yeah, gaming wise though, have played a little bit. Still haven't had a ton of time to jump into it and wrap it up, which for a Telltale game you'd think I'd already be moved on, but I'm still in episode 2 of Batman. Still really enjoying it. The twist on the story make it interesting for me, even being the major Batman fan I've always been. It's still a new take on the story, so it's got me intrigued. Then I did get an offer from Gamefly to resubscribe for $1, and they're even giving me the 2 games out at a time plan for $1.
That's
so it's
nice.
only for a month, so I'll probably only do it for the 1 month, but I'm going to try and get through as much as I can in that month. So I currently am playing, I opted to get a 3DS game and a PS4 game so I can split the game time. And I'm playing Uncharted 4 finally. I'm really enjoying it. It's more of what you'd expect out of Uncharted, the great, story and the gameplay mechanics. The one complaint, I voiced it a little bit to Kyle, and this isn't a spoiler, Nathan, because I know you're going to get to it eventually too, is there's a lot of climbing.
There's always climbing in those games, though.
Yeah, but when you get to it, Nathan, there's more climbing than anything else so far, at least where I am. So hoping that ramps down a little bit and make it a little more interesting, because it just seems to be like I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. But it's still a great story, still great voice acting. The graphics are beautiful as always, so that's great so far.
Hey, Kevin.
Yeah.
For someone who plays Animal Crossing, like I don't know, how many hours have you played of Animal Crossing?
If you want to go between all of the Animal Crossing games, it's hundreds of hours. So
okay, so I'm actually playing Animal Crossing right now, just going around and picking up shells and things. So how much of your time is spent picking fruit and seashells and stuff
fishing
like
and stuff? Yeah, you're right. You have a point there. So I guess when I'm expecting an adventure game, I'm expecting something a little different and not to be repetitive, maybe. So, but I totally get your point. So, on the 3DS, I'm playing Kirby Planet Robobot. So that came out not too long, a couple months ago now. Fairly well received as far as reviewers and critics say. And so far I have to say I'm enjoying it. And I'm not really a Kirby fan per se. I've played a few of the different games and thought they're okay, but he's not like I don't hold him in the same regards as your Marios and your Samus and your Link for Nintendo, if you will. But this game has a unique twist. So if you're not familiar with the storyline, basically Dreamland, where Kirby lives, and King Dedede, Meta Knight, and they're all there, gets overrun by some sort of giant UFO type machine that transforms everything into half cyborg, half living creatures, I guess. And it's up to Kirby to figure out what's going on and shut him down. But it's your typical Kirby gameplay. You can suck up your enemies, take their abilities, and fight like that. But you do get to use a mech, which is pretty cool. And the mech is obviously like super overpowered. You have a jetpack on it, but the mech can also absorb powers too. So it's kind of cool. Different twist on the Kirby gameplay. So it still plays very familiar, but adds a little new twist. And so far, I'm enjoying it. So it's one of the better 3DS games I've gotten my hands on. So it's fun there. And then today I got a package in the mail. And Paper Mario Color Splash is finally upon me. Only got to play probably about 40 minutes right before we started podcasting. Initial impressions are good. The story, the writing, which is what Paper Mario is kind of known for, is the very witty dialogue and stuff. It's there. I've already chuckled quite a few times already in that 40 minutes. So it's a very funny game. Keeps up with that. The fighting mechanic is still... It's similar to the other Paper Mario games, if you guys are familiar with them at all, where they're kind of turn-based, but if you time it correctly, you'll get some extra damage out of it. It still has that feel, but they add the dynamics of using cards to select your move, whether you're going to jump, hit him with your hammer, or whatever the special ability is going to be. And yeah, it's more Paper Mario, but it's a good thing. It's not in a bad way, because I've been let down by the last couple. But so far, this has me feeling as good as I did when I played the Thousand Year Door, which is my personal favorite Paper Mario game. So there'll be more on that in the site. I'll probably do a first impressions article maybe Monday or Tuesday, probably by the time you guys will listen to this episode. That'll probably be on the website, and then a review will follow later. I don't want to rush through this. I want to enjoy this game, so I'll give you a little sneak preview, and then the full review will be later on. So but that's pretty much it for me for games. So you guys listened for us banter on for about 20 minutes now about what we've been up to, so let's dive into some messages and see what you guys have to say.
Message for you, sir.
And our first question this week comes from Rob, aka Super Lobster 06 on Twitter, and he asks if we could have any developer work on any IP, who would we want to have work on what franchise, and what type of game would it be? For me, 80s Thundercats by Platinum Games. Their work on Transformers has me convinced they can make a great nostalgic experience. So, if we can have any developer work on any IP, who do we want to do what? Kyle, let's throw it to you first.
So by chance, I'm guessing Nathan. I think Nathan might be the only one who has HBO. Did anybody watch Westworld premiere?
Nope.
So that was the first thing that came to mind, but I'm not going to pick that only because I've only watched one episode of one television show. But that was a pretty sweet premiere. But anyway, I actually came up. I think there's two things that jumped to my mind here. One would be, I'm a big fan of reading. I read a lot of books. And one, I've always really wanted there to be a really solid Dresden Files game. The book series by Jim Butcher about Harry Dresden, the wizard who lives in Chicago. So, and obviously my PlayStation bias is going to show here. I would love to see basically Sucker Punch make an Infamous game, but have it be focused around Harry Dresden. I think that would be super cool and really enjoyable. That's something that I would love to see. The other one that comes to mind is, has anyone heard of or read any of the Demon Cycle books?
No.
Okay, so it's a series by Peter Brett. It is basically about these folks who live in a world where during the day they kind of go about their lives, but at night they all have to escape back into their homes because these demons begin to appear on the earth. And depending on where you live and the type of environment surround you, determines what type of demons come. So there's sand demons and rock demons and forest demons and all these different types of demons. And there are some people who they call that are warded individuals, so they have these different wards on them that can, fight these demons. So it's a really cool series. If you enjoy fantasy books, I definitely recommend it. But I would love to see Sony Santa Monica basically take this on as a God of War style game, and just kind of seeing them. I also think this series would make a great board game, to be honest. But I would really like to see Sony Santa Monica kind of take this on as a God of War style game, and just have you kind of taking on these demons and doing all the crazy bad things that Kratos has done in the past, but kind of have it set with this theme, and I think that would be pretty sweet.
Excellent. And Nathan, how about you?
I think I've mentioned this before, but CD Projekt Red, Star Wars. I mean,
oh yes, we did talk about that before. That's right.
You think about Star Wars in the Witcher kind of setting. Oh man, that'd be just fantastic. But since I've mentioned that one before, I mean, I'll step out of the box here and I'll get away from Star Wars and I'll go into another franchise that I like called Mission Impossible.
Oh,
and I'd love to see a Mission Impossible game, and I really want Hideo Kojima to do it because I think that would just be insane, and I think it would be amazing.
Oh,
and
yes.
I just want that. So please give it to me now.
And it would make as much sense as the storylines do in the Mission Impossible movies.
Exactly.
Hey, now.
Hey, I like them. I'm not saying that's bad. I enjoy most of them.
That's awesome, Nathan. I like your answers there. Seth, how about you?
So I have a few as well. One of mine actually is Mission Impossible, which is I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite current series of movies, but I really like the original Mission Impossible is one of my favorite movies, and really like especially the more the only one I don't like is Mission Impossible 2. Basically.
And 2, okay, and I talked about this before. 2 is a fever dream. He's having a fever dream while he's in prison at the end of the first one, and then the third one is actually 2. So if you look at it that way, he's just dreaming.
Okay, well, whatever. 2 is not good, but the rest of them are good. Actually, side tangent, got to interview Carrie Russell. Was she in Mission Impossible 3?
I can't picture Carrie Russell. I don't know who it is off the top of my head.
Felicity. That's her.
Felicity.
Right?
You're speaking a weird language.
Yes, I'm correct. Carrie Russell. She's in the Russian show, The Americans.
Russian show, The Americans.
Okay.
Seth, you sure you're drinking water there, bud?
The one it's on FX and it's about Russian spies who are in America.
That's The Americans.
Carrie Russell.
Yeah.
She was in Mission Impossible 3 as Ethan Hunt's protege at the beginning. Spoiler alert: she dies at the beginning.
Oh, she did.
Sorry,
she did.
So
I told you she did.
I thought
anyway,
she did.
When I was in college, I got to interview her when that movie came out. Anyway, Mission Impossible, one of my favorite movie series. I like the old show, whatever. IO Interactive Hitman, the Hitman developer.
Ooh.
Would love to see them do a lot of similar things that they do with Hitman, although maybe it wouldn't be going in and taking out a target, but you have a team of people going into some facility and performing a mission. Would love to see that kind of style of game with the Mission Impossible license. Actually, when I first saw the question, the first thing that popped in my mind was Naughty Dog, Indiana Jones.
That's called Uncharted.
Yeah,
right.
I think we already have that.
Except the period, getting the time period correct there in the 1930s game. I think they would do a really. It would be neat to see them. I really like their flashback scenes. Of Nate as a younger Nate, and just think they would do a really neat job. In the 30s. And then the other one, Kyle brought up books. One of my favorite book series is the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. And I couldn't decide if I wanted Rockstar to do it, considering their Red Dead Redemption, or if wanted something like the Wild Arms developer Mediavision, or something where it'd be a turn-based RPG kind of style. I don't know which one of those I would like better, but I'd love to see a Dark Tower game.
Cool.
So those are my 3 franchises.
There you go. I picked 2, and they're probably both a little out there, but I'm gonna go with it. So first one is Red Barrel. who makes the Outlast games, if you're not familiar with that. So the first-person horror games, if you will. And I'd like to see them do something with the Hunger Games. So we haven't seen a real, I know they have like a mobile game or something for Hunger Games, but we haven't seen a real true game for that. And I think that could be a good multiplayer type game where you're kind of just thrown in first person. You're not armed with anything. It's up to you to find ways to take out your opponents. And I think they could do a pretty interesting job with that. And the second one, which came to my mind first actually, was to have Naughty Dog work on the Supernatural franchise from CW. I think that with the humor infused into that show could play off much like a Nathan Drake does in Uncharted, and that they could make a cool like adventure type game. But who knows? But those are my picks. So thank you for the question there, Rob. And our next question comes from John. And I think I think some of us can answer this, but I'm probably the most qualified here. John wants to know, will the NX be able to compete with my Xbox One like the Cavs versus Golden State, or will it be more like the 76ers versus anyone else? So while I may not be the most qualified to catch the basketball analogies, I can tell you for a fact the NX will be nowhere near as powerful as the Xbox One, especially not going to touch the Scorpio when that's fully unveiled. But I do think when we see the NX, it's going to be a different type of experience. So we've said tons of times, and I'll always defend Nintendo, but Nintendo is not interested in competing with Microsoft and Sony anymore because I think they know that they can't. So they're always looking to be an add-on console for the household. So I think that's going to be what it's going to be more like. Anybody else want to jump in on that, or are we good with that question?
I think the analogy isn't quite right, to be honest. I think it's more like, depending on what your favorite, say for me, like for my sports team, I'm a Twins fan and a Vikings fan. So it's more like they're going to compete that way more than it is within the same thing. You get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, I feel like that would be the more apropos way to look at it, is it's not like it's within the same thing. They're trying to do something different and saying, hey, we're really cool too, but we do things really differently. So we're going to try to account for your time in a different way than what, Sony and Microsoft are doing right now.
Well said, Kyle. I like that. So then the next question here, which I think, once again, only a couple of us will be able to answer here. Mike wants to know, what's the best game for the 3DS to kind of jump in between classes? So I know Mike is in high school, so the in-between classes isn't that long, but we are told by one of his teachers, Coach Mo, that they are allowed to do stuff in their free time in between classes. So Mike wants to know, what can you jump in and out of quickly and still enjoy? I'll go last on this one, but Kyle or Seth, do you guys have any input so far with what you've played on the 3DS?
Well, the only thing I can say is that most levels of Super Mario 3D Land have taken me, I feel like about 5 minutes. So if you have 5 minutes, I feel like that might be a good fit. But that's really the only game I can even comment on.
Sure. What about you, Seth?
So I don't have too much experience yet, as we know, but the game I talked about earlier, Gunman Clive, each level takes under a minute, maybe up to 90 seconds to complete. Mm-hmm. If you can complete it within that time. A lot of them might take a few tries. Some of them might take 10 or 15 tries. But a lot of them you can get through. Certainly at least at our high school, there's 5 minutes between classes. So if you think, wow, by the time you get to a class, and you might have an extra 3 minutes, depending on how close it is, you could get through a level or two, or at least a few tries there. I also think Mario Kart isn't too bad. Yep. If you think of, between each class, you could do, if you're doing the circuit, you could do one race, then close your 3DS and just leave it on, and then open it back up and do another race, and just you could pretty easily get through probably 2 circuits during the school day if you did that.
I agree. And I mean, that's one of the things with the 3DS that's great, is you can just close it and it'll be in sleep mode, but it'll save, wherever you currently are in that game. You just pop it open and it resumes right from there. So as long as your battery doesn't die, you're good to go. But if you want to have bite-sized experience in between classes, which I think is more the question, then like you said, I agree with Seth there on the Mario Kart. Smash Brothers is another great one. You can just jump in, have a quick couple of fights, jump right back out. Animal Crossing, once again, we kind of talked about this on the last episode with the 3DS starter pack, that Animal Crossing may not be for everybody, but if you do enjoy it because the game you don't really do anything in per se, you can get what you need to get done for that day, or at least for half that day, within a few minutes. And then the one I've been digging into lately, Kirby, is a good fit because you can get through each stage in less than 5 minutes, I'd say, so far. And I'm 3.5 worlds into it, so probably more than halfway through the game, and it's all been like that. So I don't see it changing. And then before that, I was playing Hyrule Warriors, and that's good too. You cannot complete each objective within a couple minutes. It's more like 30 minutes to an hour. But you can save at any point during that mission, so you're not going to lose your progress at all. You can jump in and out, and it's not like the story is so deep that you'd be like, all right, what was going on when I last left? Because it's just fighting massive armies of enemies coming at you. And then lastly, if you haven't dove into any of the virtual console games, all of them have virtual save states. So even though you're playing an older game like on the SNES and you're not at a save point, the virtual console allows you to save at any point. So that's another great way to jump in and out of something whenever you feel like it. So there you go, Mike. And if you didn't listen to the last episode about the 3DS starter pack, go back, download that episode, and take a listen. That might give you a few more ideas for other games that might be up your alley. Now, our next question comes from Eric, also known as The Art of Bacon, great Twitter handle there, asks, what is your poop life game of choice? Donnie, you know what I'm talking about. So unfortunately, Donnie's not here to talk about it, but I guess what I'd gather from the question is, what sort of gaming do you do on the toilet, if any at all? So, Nathan, since you haven't gotten to talk too much because we've been talking Nintendo, why don't you go first?
So you guys know that I don't play much as far as iPhone games and stuff like that go. So probably I would just say like Twitter and or Facebook.
There you go.
Does that
Social
count?
media. Yeah. It's all a game.
You either win the game or you die.
On the toilet?
Yeah.
All right, then, Kyle, what
Please send
bathroom
help.
gaming do you do, if anything?
All right, so I've I really don't want to admit that I play this game, but I'm going to. So,
Yes.
my
He does
wife
board
has-
games. Board games, 12 episode board games while on the
sitting
toilet.
on the toilet.
What was really
No,
awkward was when
so-
you lost that dice.
Oh.
So it was okay. No, okay, I'm not gonna go there. So my wife has a mobile game that she really enjoys, and in order for us to, sometimes she just wants somebody she can talk to about this game. So I downloaded it and I started playing it with her, and it's actually a game made by Ubisoft. It's called Horse Haven World Adventures. And what you do in this game, kind of the best way to think about it, is if you took the game Farmville and added breeding horses into it. Okay, so you have fields and you have to grow food for your horses, and then you have your horses, and every once in a while you have to have your horses run steeplechases to help you earn money. But the one thing I will give mad props to this game about is that part of your goal, or one of the big goals for the game, is to breed different types of horses. And how deep the breeding part of it is ridiculous. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of different horses to breed, and you have to say, okay, if I want to get this kind of horse, I have to get these other two kind of horses because only these two together will equal that one. But to get those two, I have to make sure I have these one. I mean, it's really, really deep as far as how do you get these horses that you want. And my wife loves it because when she was younger, she rode horses, she showed horses, like she did that kind of stuff. So for her, it's something that she's like, I know all about this, and I know these breeds, and I know all these things. So it's definitely not a great game. It is a quote-unquote free-to-play game that every time you log in is like, hey, buy this, hey, buy this, hey, buy this. Look, there's like 9 types of currency in this game, and they each do something different, and you never have enough of any of them. So it's kind of annoying as far as that goes, but my wife loves it, so I play it with her. Horse Haven World Adventures.
Just so you know, Kyle, I'm currently downloading it right now, so I'm going to send you a friend request.
Are you really downloading it?
Yes, I'm really downloading it. Because I guess I'll go next. I play terrible, terrible games on my phone. Mostly it's because when I do any phone gaming, it's because I'm doing things in between work. I only have a couple minutes, and I like low maintenance games that you can kind of just build stuff. So when I looked really quick at the pictures, I thought it was funny because it was like the first couple pictures is like brush your horse, feed your horse, and then it shows the Farmville-esque type things you were saying. So I'll give that a whirl. Why not? But what I currently play on my phone, I do play Family Guy: The Quest for Stuff. You basically just build your town in Family Guy, and there's always different events going on with different pop culture references. So, for instance, right now they have the Halloween event where James Woods invites all the characters to his haunted hotel. So I'm not sure if they're going to go for a Rocky Horror type thing or it's going to be more like Clue. We'll see. But I do that just because I get a kick out of the Family Guy stuff. And then other than that, because I'm a big Disney nerd, there's a Disney game called Magic Kingdoms where you build your Magic Kingdom with all the different attractions and characters show up throughout that. And it's the same type of game. You just build your city and new stuff is always popping up that you can unlock and stuff. So both free to play, but same thing. You can buy stuff and they certainly encourage you to do so. But those are the games I currently just kind of jump in on my phone when I have a couple minutes. Seth, what about you?
Well, would say that I don't really game at that location, but in terms of those kind of games, while I'm waiting in line or whatever, I right now or recently had been playing the Disney Crossy Road.
Yep.
And I was kind of going through and unlocking a lot of people, and I don't know, I probably played that for a good month. Doing it every day and unlocking characters and whatever. And then, I don't know, the past week I was just like, well, I'm done with this and deleted it. So I have that. And then I also do NBA 2K has an app called My NBA 2K. And through that, it's like a card battle game where you unlock better cards and then you take your team against another team. Basically, the only reason I play it is then you get virtual currency that you can use in the actual game to, improve your player or your team or whatever. So that's pretty much the only reason that I play that one. But right now, other than that, I'm not really doing much else on the phone like that.
Fair enough. So that brings us to our last question, which our new little thing we've been doing is have our wife question of the week. So this question comes from none other than Seth's wife. And I think this is only going to be directed to Kyle because I'm pretty sure it only pertains to Kyle. But who on the team is getting into PSVR and what games is he getting and or is most looking forward to trying in the demo disc included in the PSVR? So I know I'm not getting into VR. I know Seth isn't doing VR. Nathan, you're not doing it either, right?
No, I canceled my pre-order.
Okay, that's what I thought I remember you saying that. So, Kyle, you're the only one still in that's on at least this episode. I think Coach Mo is still getting it. But so, Kyle, what games are you getting and or what are you most looking forward to playing on the demo?
So, as far as the demo disc, honestly, I'm looking forward to playing just about everything on it because I want to see what all of those different things have to offer. But as far as specific games I'm looking forward to, Thumper is one that's probably number one on my list, the game I'm looking forward to the most. Super Hypercube is definitely a close second. If I can stomach it and handle it, Here They Lie, which is kind of a horror game, is definitely up there. And then Wayward Sky, which is an adventure game, is one that I'm also really looking forward to. And even though it's been getting pretty middling to mediocre to maybe even bad reviews, Until Dawn Rush of Blood, I'm really looking forward to, only because when I was a kid going to arcades, I loved playing like light gun games. They were my favorite thing to do, and I loved to do that. So I feel like that on-rails light gun thing, I'm hoping a little blast of nostalgia there. Looking into the future, Robinson the Journey and Gollum are obviously the two big ones that, PlayStation's been pushing, and I'm definitely looking forward to those. But yeah, from that launch lineup, I mean, Thumper really for me is kind of that number one game I'm looking forward to playing.
Cool. Well, that'll wrap up the mailbag then for this week, and it's time to dive into the main topic, which, as we teased a little bit about earlier, if you've been following the website at all and what we've been up to recently, I've kind of dove headfirst into the world of indie games, which had never really appealed to me before. Only played a few others that were like always, free on PlayStation Plus or something like that. But now I'm starting to find exactly what that market has to offer for my personal tastes and having some fun there. So I wanted to open it up to our resident indie experts, if you will, of Seth and Kyle. And Nathan said he's played his fair share of indie games as well. And kind of get their input on the indie games. And no, I'm not talking about Crystal Skull or Indiana Jones or anything like that, because we already had that conception.
Why does your initial pull go to Crystal Skull?
Because it was the worst one.
I don't know.
Oh, then you do know, Seth. You do know.
No,
Temple
I
of Doom was
really
pretty
don't.
bad.
I don't like Temple of Doom. I
What? What?
can't watch Temple of Doom.
Temple of
Are you
Doom was not a good movie.
No,
But-
I can't watch it. And
I'm not-
I can watch Crystal Skull.
Wow. I mean, I'm not
Mm.
saying Temple of Doom is good, but better than Crystal Skull?
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it too. It's like, really?
Oh man. Okay. Anyway,
All
continue
right.
on.
So anyway, we're not talking about Indiana Jones, although we just did. We're talking about games developed by independent companies and put out there for all of us to enjoy.
Hey, you
So
call
we're
him
gonna-
Dr. Jones.
Sorry, Dr. Jones. There's another joke I want to make, but I'll save everybody from that because I don't think anybody will get the joke. So we're going to take a look and see what everybody feels about the indie scene, if you will. So first, let's kind of see. I'd like to get your guys, our panel's input on what do you currently enjoy about indie games in general, what the market does, the types of games you play. What do you like best about indie games? And let's throw it to Kyle first.
Well, I think indie games, the reason that I like them so much is that they, and I know I've talked about this before, but they broaden the way that we play games. They give us different ways to play games that we're not necessarily going to see in the AAA space. And if you look at just the structure of how gaming works today, in the fall, there's a lot of AAA games released. And if you're Sony, who can't ever release a game in the fall, you have some AAA games released in the spring. But there's a lot of time of the year where there's not a lot of AAAs released, and it really relies on those indie games or those smaller games that are developed to kind of continue giving us that drip, to continue giving us those games that are coming out and those new experiences. And for me, some of my favorite genres of games, which back in the past would have been things that would have been looked at more as big production or big budget games, simply would not fit into that AAA space. I'm a guy who I love twin stick shooters. You're probably never going to see a AAA twin stick shooter. It's just not going to happen. So I think that indie games give us the opportunity to explore different things. It gives, game developers an opportunity to kind of spread their wings and push their limits and do things that would probably not be supported financially from the AAA perspective, and just kind of helps us do different things. I know for some reason there's this, I feel like almost irrational dislike of indie games often, or that people, kind of put indie games down. And part of me doesn't get it because you don't need to buy it. Like, if you don't like it, don't get it. But I really enjoy the fact that it really shows us different things that games can do, and has helped pushing, gaming forward in many ways. Like, I think Virginia, which we can talk about, later, but I think Virginia is a perfect example of a game that would never ever be released from a AAA studio, but it definitely is doing things that I think in the future might affect the narrative of games, and even bigger games, about how they tell their stories. So yeah, I just think that indie games really increase the breadth of what games can do and help us experience games in different ways.
I agree. So Nathan, how about you?
So the term indie games is, I don't know if that's accurate anymore, really, because you think about indie games.
Are you pulling a Donnie on us? We haven't had to do this in a long time.
No.
What is the definition of an indie game? No,
It depends on what your definition of the word "it" is. No, but the Walking Dead series is considered an indie game. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
I don't view it really as an indie game. I mean, yeah, it's not AAA, and they need to fix that engine, but
Yeah.
it's independent developers are, people who aren't housed within EA, right? Who aren't housed within those big corporations. They aren't putting out Call of Duties. They're trying to do something different, something innovative, and by and large, they typically succeed. And that's why you have the people like Telltale Games that comes out and puts out an amazing game nobody saw coming because no one paid attention to them. You know what I mean? And once they come out and they put this game out, everybody's impressed. And they're like, oh, games are more than just, shooters. Yeah, they are. There's a lot of different genres out there, and independent developers are the only ones willing to explore them. And it's really cool that, I'm pretty sure that it's the same way on the PS4, but on the Xbox One, you go into the game store, and it's just games. They don't segregate AAA games, quote-unquote, from indie games, quote-unquote.
No.
They have them all just there. They're all games. They all get the same shelf space, on the digital storefront. And you look at one, and you can tell by the price tag if something's a, quote unquote indie, but it's equal opportunity, and I love the fact that they have that there, because they're not being like, oh, this is an arcade game, this is blah, we don't want to play this. No, I mean, it's right there next to Call of Duty, it's there next to Forza, and you're looking at one game that draws you in, let's say Gears of War, and then you're like, oh, what's this other game that came out today? And then you take a look at that, it's an independent game, you give it a shot, and you like it, because it's something that you weren't expecting. And so the indie developer scene is very important in the state of gaming, because it pushes the boundaries of what people expect and what people want, because honestly, gamers don't know what they want until they experience it, and the ones that often give them those experiences first are independent developers, and so they're very important to the ecosystem.
Well said. Seth, what about you? What do you like? What's the positives of the indie scene for you?
So kind of like Kyle, and also I sort of agree there with Nathan. It's hard to pinpoint what is technically an indie game or whatever, but the idea is that you get to try different experiences, whether they're throwback experiences like Shovel Knight, or whether they're just different sorts of things that aren't done anymore, that are pushing the envelope in new ways. I know obviously it gets a lot of hate, but No Man's Sky is an indie game that the small studio tried something different, maybe didn't get the message out the correct way about it, but they tried something different that is, when you boil it down to what it is a really neat thing and could impact the gaming spectrum as a whole somewhere down the road. So I just like that it's, you get to try different things. A lot of times they're bite-sized experiences. I know that not all of that a couple of these games aren't technically independent games, like Journey, or the one where it's a blank screen, the Swan game. Unfinished Swan. I know those are both, sort of developed kind of in-house at Sony, but they're the spirit of an independent game, trying something different, and I never would have, if Journey was on a store shelf, I wouldn't have picked up that box and said, oh, this looks really cool. But being able to see it, it was a low entry price, and I was excited to give it a try. Or a game like Rogue Legacy. I never would have played. That EA isn't going to come out with a roguelike game about a knight and that you can finish. That's a 2D side scroller, 8-bit, 16-bit graphics, whatever it is. So I just like trying different genres or different takes on gaming, and that they typically are more bite-sized experiences.
I agree. So I'm gonna have mainly shorter answers than you guys, because I've literally played like 3 or 4 quote unquote indie games recently. But to echo what some of you had already said, I mean, the biggest thing for me is it's something different a lot of the times, whether it's something that I would be into or not. It's just good to see somebody doing something different, because we have so many annual releases with Call of Duty and Assassin's Creed, and you get your Far Cries, and I love a lot of these games, but it's the same experience, for better or for worse. You know what you're getting into when you pick up an Assassin's Creed game. You know how it's going to play, how it's going to feel. Whereas with an indie game, a lot of times you're like, okay, I have no idea what this is going to be, and it could work really, really well in your favor, and you absolutely love it because you're surprised, or you could end up hating and saying this is not for me, and well, this explains why they're an independent developer, or, something like that. But the fact that people are out there trying something different gives a great opportunity for a lot of people who can't work with your EAs, with your Ubisofts, with your Sony's, Nintendos, whatever have you. But it gives them a playing ground to compete with everybody and kind of push the envelope and challenge the bigger developers to do something different, because they get a lot of attention with the smaller budget, where some of their big blockbusters don't get as much attention, and they've spent hundreds of millions on a game. So that's it for me on that one. So then let's flip it and see what don't you enjoy about the indie scene? What bad trends do you see? What are you not quite feeling, if you will, with the indie scene? And this time we'll throw it to Nathan first.
Oh, what am I not enjoying? What trends don't I like? Honestly, I don't like games being 8-bit for 8-bit's sake. Um,
Yes, I
that's
agree.
there's a lot of games that come out there and they're just kind of like, oh look, we're gonna be nostalgic, we're gonna be retro. No, you're not. It's kind of like hipster, you know what I mean? Now, I feel like you look at those games and they're just trying to put that in there and kind of put the facade on what they want to put out there. They're not really bad games, but it's just there's not enough variety. And I will say this: so games that I enjoy, games that I really like, have great art styles, and they kind of push the boundary in that way. But games that always are just using, oh, we're going to use this 8-bit or we're going to use a 16-bit kind of look, put a little more effort into it. That's what I would want from that game. I mean, you don't have to make it 8-bit for people to play it. I mean, maybe that has an allure for some people. It just doesn't have it for me. So that would be my biggest complaint and the biggest trend that I see a lot of games doing that I don't care for.
I agree with you very much so there. That's kind of why I think I strayed away for so long, is every time I saw an indie game, it was like, oh yeah, it's this 8-bit inspired by or 16-bit inspired by game. And I'm like, I lived through that genre, through that phase of gaming the first time around. I don't want to go back and revisit it. I like seeing the advances. So
Right.
I'm there with you. I
And
agree on you.
you want your Xbox or your PS4 to put out something that looks decent usually. So, I
Right.
mean, we all love Mario. Yeah, we do. And it's a time capsulated game that's classic. But it's just, if it's a new game, just give me a new game. I wanna see what you have to do, what you can bring to the table that's new and different.
Hmm. Agree. So Seth, what are you not digging about the indie scene right now?
The main thing that I thought of with this question is the crowdfunding issue or scene or whatever, where certainly there have been some really good games that have come out of the Kickstarter stuff. Shovel Knight received a Kickstarter and then delivered and is still delivering with new content. But then you hear about the Mighty Number 9 game that people kickstarted and then got delayed forever and then came out and just completely underwhelmed. I didn't play it, but I, certainly just paying attention to what happened there. And just the idea of people, paying good money toward these projects that don't come to fruition later on is I don't know if it's the biggest, I don't know, just a trend that I don't like. Sort of the idea of if the game is a good idea, a publisher is going to jump on it somewhere. And just putting money toward, there was another, what is it, Ukulele? Was that kickstarted?
Yep.
And that's now been, I mean, I know that it's getting good, previews and whatever, but I know that that's been pushed way back and delayed. Has anybody else done a Kickstarter? Not either game or otherwise?
Not for games, but I've done like comic books and documentaries.
I've done board games.
Okay. I did some sort of board game. I know I've done a few different Kickstarter things. Not a video game yet, but every Kickstarter thing I've done has been late. Which is, I mean, I know what I'm getting into, and that's okay. It's people that are trying to be entrepreneurs and creating something different and new, and it's a neat thing. But I haven't. Everything has been late, and then I think I may have had 2 things that haven't delivered. Maybe just one thing that never delivered, and really that's sort of scared me off from even doing Kickstarter again. And then even hearing about the video game things, like with Shovel Knight, I bought when it came out on Vita, and that was one of my favorite games. I think it came out to Vita last year. It was one of my favorite games. Might be my favorite game on Vita. but there was no reason really for me to do the Kickstarter for it. And I just think, it ultimately isn't very consumer friendly, and because it's tough to have, there's no recourse for it if the game fails. I don't know what other people think about Kickstarter and that sort of thing, but I'm just not a fan of how there's no real accountability if something fails. Then people are just left without any recourse.
Right. Fair enough. Kyle, what say you?
So interestingly enough, I'm going to touch on Seth's thoughts on Kickstarters here a little bit. Just because in the board game world, actually, Kickstarters are huge. There's tons and tons of Kickstarters that go on for board games. And some of them are, some companies there just because making a profit in the board game business is very, very difficult. And there are some of them that's kind of how they basically serve it. It basically serves as a pre-order. The last game that I kickstarted actually was Scythe from Stonemaier Games, and they have an excellent track record. And Scythe actually came in early. I got it a month before it was supposed to be delivered. But again, that's because in the board game world, there are some companies that just are known for their Kickstarters are very low risk, that they know what they're doing. The next thing I kickstarted, which I think I'm supposed to get sometime next fall. I actually have to look at the date. Was actually a board game version of the indie video game, This War of Mine, the Little Ones. So I actually kickstarted the board game for that, and I think it's like a fall 2017 thing. I actually kind of like kickstarting things because randomly one day I get something in the mail that I totally forgot that I had backed like 2 years before. So I always find that kind of exciting. But I agree 100% with what Seth is saying, is that Kickstarters can be dangerous. And in many ways, you just have to be okay with never seeing that money again. But I don't know if that's a good thing. I think the thing that I'm kind of worried about in this trend, and I think this obviously happens, anytime something gets big, I think there's too many games coming out, especially when it comes to indie games. And I don't know, Nathan would be able to talk about it on Xbox Live better than I can for sure, but there are weeks on PSN where there's over 20 games that come out.
Mm-hmm.
Same on Xbox.
How many downloads are some of those games getting? Like, there's no way some of those games are getting 10,000 maybe downloads, so I think I don't want to call it the race to the bottom, or that, the mobile market has really started to infiltrate the indie game market, but I feel like there is almost too many games coming out now, and that there's no way you can play everything, and that's fine. I don't think we have to be able to, but it's how do you discover those gems? How do you help make sure that the cream rises to the top, and we're not being bogged down by those games that, for better or worse, I mean, it's like, do they have a business being there? I guess if somebody made them and have the ability to publish them, sure. But it's just, there's so much stuff coming out. It's so hard sometimes to find, those true hidden gems. And without, the Microsoft or Sony saying like, hey, this game is great, or featuring it, or you hear about it like me, I look at the PlayStation blog a lot, and usually most of the games they feature on there typically have been pretty solid. So, it's kind of like, how do you sort through all that stuff and figure out what of these games are worth my time and which ones aren't? And I think that's the thing that is most worrisome to me at this point, is there's just so much out there that there's so many I don't want to say bad, but maybe games that don't fit what I'm looking for, that's harder and harder and harder to find the ones I am. And because of those games that aren't great, it kind of brings down the reputation of all games, that are developed in that more indie style. And people are like, oh, well, look at this game and this game and this game that weren't good, so that's probably just another, not great indie game that was released. So that's my biggest concern with it, is there's just so darn many of them.
I agree, and that's a difficult thing. So for me, once again, kind of the inexperienced one here, we have a benefit here doing with what we do with Play Some Video Games. We're on the press release list for pretty much every developer known to humankind at this point. So I will get a heads up, a couple weeks to a month ahead of time of, hey, there's this new game coming out, indie titles included. And I'll kind of skim through the press releases, and they often send us press kits where we can get some, videos that aren't public yet, and some screenshots and artwork and stuff like that to kind of get a heads up. And then we can reach out to them if we're interested. And so, I mean, that gives us a little bit of an edge to kind of go through, but I can't imagine being a gamer who doesn't do that right now and being able to find those indie games. So like you said, there's just so much coming out, and a lot of them don't get publicity unless they're being highlighted by, the Sony blog, or Microsoft is sending out emails saying, this game available now. And because they just don't have the same reach that your EAs do, that your Ubisofts do. They put all these TV commercials and print ads and banners on IGN and what have you there. So it's a tough situation to be in, where you're going to find something that you're interested in if you're not already in the loop to begin with. So for me, it's like I just wish there was some sort of resource for everybody to kind of be like, hey, here's a list of all the indie games coming out, and here's some details on them and something like that. Like, I think it would benefit the whole indie market as a whole if they got together and decide on some sort of format or home, if you will, where they can do that together. But yeah, there's just so much coming out, and I think it's kind of hard to find something you might be interested in unless you hear it direct from the source or from somebody who's played it. Like I know Kyle went through and played both Jazzpunk and Virginia after reading my reviews, and that got him interested in. But if I didn't know about this stuff, I might not have paid any attention to them, and I enjoyed both those experiences. So to be I don't want to use the term uninformed gamer, but with the indie market, a lot of times you are, because you don't know what you're getting into. But yeah, I'd just like to see him get a better grip on letting people know what's out there. So then the last one, I'm not going to answer this one because I have pretty much all my indie experiences on the website, so you can see what I'm recommending. But then why don't you guys each kind of go and give one or two recommendations real quick about your favorite indie titles, with the description in case we're not familiar with it, but nothing spoilery, obviously, because a lot of the indie titles are only a couple hours long. So if you give something away, it's kind of the whole point of the game. So let's go with Seth first.
All right. I have a lot of games that I thought about, but I want to touch on a couple that I really haven't mentioned a whole lot on here yet. One is called Downwell. It was released on iOS last year, about a year ago, and Android in January, and then on PS4 and Vita in May. And it's 2D, pretty lo-fi graphics, black and white. Actually, as you play it more and more, it has different color schemes to make it look like one of the color schemes looks like a Game Boy game. And there are just some different color schemes. But you're this little guy, and you jump down a well. And as you're falling down the well, you have these gun boots that you shoot out of, and you can shoot enemies like spiders and bats and different things. And then it also helps you kind of float a little bit. So if you're falling down toward a spike, you shoot a couple bullets so you can keep afloat and then go over to where there's not a spike. And you just go down the well. I didn't get anywhere close to beating it yet. I haven't played it for a little while, but it's very addictive, and you go down and you die, and then it starts over, within a second, and then you get to go down again. And it's a roguelike, so it's a different, a little bit different layout every time. And it's super cheap. I think it was $5 brand new on when it came to PlayStation. And then, and again, I imagine that it's probably pretty cheap on iOS and Android. And then the other series that I wanted to point out is Velocity, or it's Velocity Ultra and Velocity 2X is on, I think the first game is only on Vita and PS3. And then Velocity 2X is on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation Vita. It looks like it might be on Steam and Xbox One also, which is cool. And it's described as a shoot 'em up game. It's a sci-fi game where you have this jet, and it's 2D above. The jet is flying up on the screen, and you have to dodge around. It's a teleporting spacecraft, so if you come up to a wall and then you have to get through the wall, you can teleport through the wall or teleport around enemies, and then you're shooting enemies. And then in Velocity 2X, there are also some parts we get out of the ship, and it's a side-scrolling shoot 'em up. And it's just really fun, addictive gameplay. Developed by Future Lab and published by Sierra Entertainment. So I don't know if that actually fits with independent indie games or not, but um, they are also among my favorite games on the Vita, and just as good on PlayStation 4.
Excellent. Nathan, what are some of your favorites?
I really like. Let me think about this. So, it was already touched on a little bit. Rogue Legacy was a fun game, and it was recommended to me by one of my coworkers, and I said, "Hey, this is actually pretty fun," and I spent a lot of time in that one. And there's no story to give away in that game. I think Seth kind of touched on it a little bit, but I mean, basically, what it is you start with this character. He goes to the castle. You try to go as far as you can, and you will die. And it's basically built to, as you play through the game, you die more and more, but you hold a little bit of that experience and some of that money that you can kind of put your next person down, like your next lineage. So, and another fun thing they do with it, though, is they'll have different genetic defects. Like one person can only see in black and white. One person is your controls are reversed because something. One person has just like different weird things happen. You know what I mean? And it's a fun game. It was really good, and it was one of those indie games that I didn't really pay any attention to. That was the time when I just didn't really pay attention to indie type games. But that was one of the first ones that really drew me in, and I said, "Oh wow, this is actually really fun and really good and engaging." And again, that art style that they use there too is really, really good. Yeah, it's reminiscent a little bit of some of the 8-bit stuff, but it's not. And it uses really solid controls too, so it's really good. Another one that I like too, that's kind of reminiscent, that has another good art style that I like, is called The Swindle. Did you play that one, Kyle, by chance? Did it come on PlayStation?
I have not played that one.
Okay. It's the basic premise of that is, in we'll say 100 days, they're gonna have this new device that will stop crime, right? And you are a thief, and so you're trying to break in and earn as much money as you can from these different break-ins or these different heists, and you build up your guy as you go along. If you get caught or killed, then there's a different person, so you same kind of Rogue Legacy kind of way. And it's an independently generated, or I guess procedurally generated level each time, so it's randomized. And it just has you have different abilities that you unlock along the way, and basically you want to get up to where you can stop this supercomputer from going online. And I never got to that point. Obviously, I wasn't that good with the game, but I had a lot of fun playing it. It was really fun trying to get to a point to try to get there. Like, I felt like I was attainable, but I just wasn't doing it right enough. And it was a great experience. On the not so good side, can I say one that I don't like? Is that allowed? Or are we just doing
Yeah,
ones we
go
like?
for it.
Okay.
Go for it.
I pre-ordered this game, and I learned my lesson because I pre-ordered games, and I was like, hey, this looks interesting. This was after I played Rogue Legacy again, and I was looking at those independent type games because I was broadening my horizons. I was trying to see what everything did, and this is an 8-bit game, and it's just not for me. I mean, I can understand if somebody likes it, they want to do this type of thing, but that game is, I think it's called The Escapists. Yeah, The Escapists. And it's going to be free soon for Xbox One, so you can all give it a chance. But I do not like this game. I pre-ordered it, it was $20, and I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot, because they had like $2 off for pre-ordering. And I played it, and it's a top-down 8-bit game. You walk around, you're trying to escape, you're trying to find things to escape. I thought that it would be fun, but it's just so tedious, and like, it doesn't tell you anything about what to do. And I don't need games that hold my hand the entire time. But give me a basic, I can do this type of thing, or kind of make it more that I can realize that I can go over to this thing and open this door or do this. It's just, I just didn't care for it. But it's I guess it's got some critical acclaim and people like it because it keeps getting expansions. And I think there's actual sequel coming out for it either next year or in the next year or so. But just not for me. Did not like it. But yeah, another indie game that I did like actually that you can read my full review on is Firewatch. That was actually a good game that I had paid attention to it a little bit when it came out because of the buzz around it, but I never really dived into what it was all about. And I'm glad I didn't because I was able to go in pretty much blind into this game, and that's the way you should go into it. Just know that it's a first-person exploration game and that it's about relationships and communication. So it was really well done. I like the art style. That art style is timeless. That's an art style that won't look bad in 5 years. You won't look back on that kind of art style like you would with, the Polygon era or with Nintendo 64 type games, PS1 era. But those are my titles. The ones that I recommend definitely are The Swindle, the Rogue Legacy, and I'm trying to think of what I just said. Firewatch, yeah. So there you go. And also, the Walking Dead stuff, but that doesn't really count anymore.
Yeah, it's true. It definitely Telltale Games started off as something indie, and now it's now, like you said, it's not AAA, but everybody knows them. It's not quite as a hidden gem as it used to be. But I still gotta get around to Firewatch myself too. I'm waiting for a sale there. I'm gonna scoop that one up because that seems up my alley. But Kyle, what's some of your recommendations?
Well, I'm actually going to only talk about indie games that came out within this calendar year because one of my top 10 favorite games of all time, Bastion, is an indie game, and that came out years ago. But I think there's been so many great games even just this year that we don't necessarily have to go back to old things. One of those is a game that I think got way, way too little acclaim and
Jazzpunk.
It is not Jazzpunk, and far too few people played it. It came out back in March on PS4. I think it's on PC and PS4. I don't think it's on Xbox One, but I could be wrong. And it's a twin-stick shooter called Assault Android Cactus. I did a review for this game on our site. I gave it, I think, like an 87. It's still, even now, with all the games I've played this year, might be in my top 5 games of the year. This game, if you like twin-stick shooters, is fantastic and a must play. So pretty straightforward. It's a twin-stick shooter, so you're moving with the left stick, shooting with the right stick. Each of the characters, and there's about 8 different characters in the game, each character has a different primary and a different secondary firing, and they're drastically different. They really change the way you play the game. And I think that's one of the most interesting things about it is you can play shooters all the time that, you pick up a different weapon. And it's often, even in AAA games, that other weapon doesn't always necessarily feel that different from the weapon that you just had. But in this game, all of the weapons feel very different. The colors are bright. Everything just pops off the screen. Your character's name is Cactus, and she's an assault android. And she has landed on this ship, and she finds out that the ship has malfunctioned and is keeping all of the people basically hostage on the ship. So you have to fight through all the different levels to basically shut down the AI on this ship that is holding everyone hostage. And you pick up other assault androids along the way that become part of your teams, and they have fun, cool names with bright colors. It is just a fantastic game. It's made by a little team called Witchbeam out of Australia. I think they only have like 2 or 3 people that even work there. It's a super small team. This might even be their first game, but it is fantastic. I really, really recommend Assault Android Cactus. The other game I'm going to recommend is a game that got a lot more fanfare and was pushed really, really hard. But I think it just shows how different indie games can be, and that game is The Witness. Now, this is a game that is definitely not for everyone because it is a 100% puzzle game. If you don't like puzzle games, you ain't going to like this. But I think it really just shows that this is another game that a AAA publisher probably is never going to jump into. This is now available on Xbox One, and if you have it, I definitely recommend that you go out and play it if you have any interest in it. But the game is really beautiful. It does not ask, there's no words in it, but yet it teaches you how to solve these puzzles as you go. It's very simple, just line drawing puzzles that you have to go through. I say simple in the fact that the concept is simple, but some of them are brain-bustingly hard to figure out. It's a really good time if you like that sort of game. It was a game that I would leave, I would stop playing, and I would go to bed, and I would dream about the puzzles in this game. I had graph paper laying around on my table trying to figure out how to figure out some of these things. It is just a fantastic game. And that, honestly, I don't know if that would quite be in my top 5 games of the year, but it definitely would be flirting with it. So The Witness, another excellent, excellent option. And I think another thing that does some cool things with pricing, because it's $40, and some people thought that was really expensive. But for the number of hours I put into that game and the enjoyment I got out of it, I think it's easily worth $40. And I think that's another thing that I think is kind of cool that indies can do, is that they explore all these different price areas. Games aren't $60 or nothing, or $100, like many are now with the special editions, which I'm fine with. I think that's fine. But, I think that it's nice that they can explore kind of those different price points. But I think it was easily worth the $40. But if you're not into puzzle games, maybe wait for a good deal on it and pick up The Witness.
Awesome. Well, that should give our listeners some food for thought around indie games and what maybe to pick up and give a shot as well. More recent indie reviews that I had done, obviously, is Virginia and Jazz Punk, so you can read my thoughts on those. I do recommend those both for what it's worth. I know Kyle had fun with both of them. He may not agree with my scoring, but that's okay.
I would recommend one of them for sure.
To each their own, and that's the whole point there. So that'll wrap it up for the main topic.
Question
and
for
now,
you.
Yes, go right ahead.
Is The Witcher considered an independent game?
Oof.
Hey, Donnie, glad you could make the podcast. Nice to have you.
No, I was just thinking. Because
No, it's
not
a valid point.
I mean,
Right.
it's very polished, obviously, but I mean, it's CD Projekt Red, and they've only done the Witcher games. They're a small studio out of Poland. I mean,
they're not very small.
Well, I mean, it's not like Dice big or something like that.
Well, but I think you ask a really valid point, though, because if you look at a game like Unravel, like a lot of people would consider Unravel to be independent or an indie game, but it was published by EA,
True.
So. But I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah, it's tough because you want to say yes because, like you said, it's not by a major publisher per se, but yet that game got so much attention, and it was, it didn't need to rely on crowdfunding, as we talked about. It wasn't available for download only. It had no problem getting shelf space in retail environments. So it's a good point.
According to
if it is, it's the most successful indie game ever, I would think at this point. But yeah.
According to Wikipedia, CD Projekt Red has 370 employees.
Yeah, it's a little big.
Which, I mean, what does a company like Naughty Dog have?
Oh, I don't even know if they have that many. I think they have maybe a couple hundred.
Interesting. Maybe do some fact checking while we dive into the news.
This week in Play Some Video Game News.
So, Seth, what do you have for news this week for us, buddy?
I have a couple things that are maybe more semi-related to video games. One actually is Power Rangers. Bandai Namco has announced Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Mega Battle for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. And it's a digital game that will feature quote-unquote classic beat-em-up gameplay across levels reminiscent of locations from the first two TV seasons of the TV show. You'll be able to choose your favorite ranger and level up their abilities. There's also going to be a co-op mode. And saw a little bit of a trailer that had a little bit of gameplay in it, and it looked like it could be a fun co-op battler. So that is, I think that may have come out of New York Comic Con. I'm not sure. I know there was some movie posters were released too.
It was shown first at New York Comic Con. Yep.
Okay. So I thought that looked pretty neat. Certainly go online and check those out. And then the other thing that popped out to me that is very loosely related to video games, the WWE and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are teaming up to release some WWE themed Ninja Turtle action figures from Playmates Toys. No clue when these will be released, or how much they'll cost or anything, but they have Leonardo is dressed like John Cena.
Mhm.
Donatello is dressed like the Undertaker, the long-haired, goateed, kind of old school version of the Undertaker with the hat. Michelangelo is Macho Man, and Raphael is Sting, kind of the Crow version of Sting, which I think that one at first, Raphael's my favorite turtle.
Me
At
too.
first, when I saw that he was Sting, I was like, I don't know about that. But certainly his personality fits with the Crow
Yeah.
WCW 1997 era version of Sting. So I can see that. Undertaker with Donatello, I don't know.
That doesn't make any sense.
Macho Man, well, I guess we could go around. Who else? Hey, I do think Sting fits with Raphael, but the other three I'm less certain on.
I could see Macho Man, Michelangelo, but Leonardo,
Yeah.
John Cena, and Donatello, Undertaker make no sense.
Yeah, and I don't know who else you'd put there, but
Oh, I don't know.
not those two.
No,
So.
I agree.
Anyway, I thought that was cool. I doubt that I'll end up with those, but certainly I have currently have two girls. I'm about to have a third in the next few days. If I had boys, these would certainly be their Christmas presents.
We'll see. It's coming from experience with three girls. It's actually kind of easy to sway them a little bit. So my middle daughter, who is now 10, was actually up until probably about a year ago a massive Power Rangers fan. And she stumbled upon it by herself with like Power Rangers Samurai or whatever. And I saw her watching. I was like, "What are you watching?" And she told me, I was like, No. You need to boot up Netflix. You need to go back to the beginning. You need to watch where this came from because that's the best. And she got hooked, man. I mean, she's seen almost all of them, like from all of them, because Netflix has everything. The movies, she had some of the action figures, so it's kind of cool. And then both of my girls are actually into comic books and the movies, the Marvel movies, and the three of us went to, just me and my two older daughters went to go see Suicide Squad together. So hey, you can swam it.
Okay.
It can be done. I have faith in you. Power Rangers game excites me. We talked a little bit about it through our chat earlier today. Jason and I had brought up. So it does sometimes at points look like a Flash-based game, but
Yeah.
if you get a 4-player beat 'em up with the OG Power Rangers on there, seems pretty cool. Even if it does have some graphic shortcomings, if you will. But yeah, so I'm excited for that. To get back to the Naughty Dog question, so best information I can find is Naughty Dog has fluctuated between 250 to 500 employees, so it's right up there with CD Projekt Red for sure. So
That's a pretty big fluctuation.
well, I think it's because, and I've heard stories about this too, where Naughty Dog will ramp up a lot of temps in development and then let them go. So I think that's kind of what the fluctuation is. So it's probably more closer to 250 to 300 full-time normal employees, and then the others are probably brought in as contractors when needed to finish out a game within a time frame. But so yeah, it's really not. It's very similar to CD Projekt Red, so it just adds more fuel to Nathan's discussion there. But yeah, it's interesting. So Nathan, do you have any news this week, or
I got one thing I'll share.
is it Star Wars related?
Maybe.
Yeah, go for it.
So Star Wars is part of this. It's a bigger news bit than that. But beginning today, people with EA access on Xbox One can get on new games that they're calling them like the classic or throwback pack. It's including Heavy Weapon, Bejeweled 2, Bejeweled 3, Feeding Frenzy, Feeding Frenzy 2, and Zuma. So you can get all those right now on EA Access on your Xbox One. And you can also be looking forward to later this year, there's 3 more games coming out called EA Sports UFC 2. So that's the UFC game that came this year. Mirror's Edge Catalyst, which, man, that seems like a fast turnaround to get in the vault.
Yeah, that was like 3 months or something, I think.
Yeah, and then Star Wars Battlefront, obviously. And those are coming in December. So those of you who have EA access, this is a good list to add to the games that are already in the vault. There's a ton of content out there. And they also wanted to let you know that Battlefield 1 will be able to be played on October 13th for those who use EA Access.
Excellent. So then that leaves you, Kyle. What do you got for news this week, buddy?
Well, Kevin, do you have news this week?
I wasn't planning on it because I normally don't.
Well, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure because that changes what things I will cover.
Oh, I think I might know what you're going to talk about, but go ahead. You go for it.
Okay, so that's going to be at the end for me. So, Gravity Rush 2 has been delayed. Imagine that, a Sony first-party game not coming out when they said it was going to. That never happens. This is kind of a weird delay, though, because it's only like 6 weeks. So it's now hitting January 20th instead of the early December date that it had. On the plus side, though, there was going to be premium DLC for Gravity Rush 2. That is now just being included in the game. So that's kind of a nice, I guess, hey, sorry that we can't hit a release date at all, I guess. So that the 6-week delay, though, does seem kind of weird. I don't know if they're just trying to get it out of the way of Last Guardian. I don't think it's going to matter for Last Guardian sales numbers because I don't think they're going to be that good anyway. But yeah, so Gravity Rush 2 delayed. It's still, now again, barring that, release dates announced at the Tokyo Game Show hold, January and February are ridiculous for Sony. Those are going to be 2 absolutely insane months as far as games go. Basically an exclusive almost every week for those 2 months. So we'll see how that goes and if anything else moves. But with most of those dates being announced in the last month or so, I feel like, or I hope, that most of those hold. Another piece of news that I find interesting, and I only bring this up because I had brought this up when this game was first announced, and I was told in the PSVG chat that this would not happen, but it looks like it has happened. It looks like if you purchase the physical Call of Duty Infinite Warfare to get your copy of Modern Warfare, your disc will have to be in the system for you to play Modern Warfare Remastered. So if you were looking at potentially buying Infinite Warfare, selling that disc off, and just playing Modern Warfare, not going to be able to happen. Now, obviously, for digital copies, that won't matter. But if you're buying the physical version, just be aware that in order to play Modern Warfare, you will have to have your Infinite Warfare disc in the system to play it. So, kind of a bummer there, but I kind of anticipated that might happen. Others told me I was crazy. And finally, Kevin, you get mods, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
So, after a lot of hemming and hawing, it looks like mod support is going to be coming to Bethesda games, specifically Skyrim and Fallout. It will be launching with the Skyrim remaster, and Fallout 4 support will be coming later. It looks like the sticking point was that Sony did not want items from outside the game to be included in mods, since those would not have been tested, or we don't know exactly what they would do to the system. So the mods will have to only be done with items that are already in game. But hey, you're getting some kind of mods in some ways, Kevin. Aren't you excited?
I still am. It's still going to be fun. I just seeing some of the stuff that's already available, like the Macho Man Death Claws, is kind of a fan favorite. Everyone has would require some new textures, and I've seen some people do some interesting power armor skins and stuff. So I won't complain too much because Bethesda really is doing right by the fans. Trying to find a way to make it work, because ultimately it's not really their fault this kind of fell through. So it's great to see that they continued to push and found some sort of resolution. Now, the one part you didn't mention was, so it's going to be out there for Skyrim when the Skyrim Ultimate Master does come out. So that's great news for them. But Fallout's coming even later at an undisclosed date. So we've already been waiting a year, the fans of the Fallout series. So I'm not sure when they're going to get around to it. So who knows? But by then, I'll probably be ready to go back in and play Fallout 4 some more, because I've let it go now for the past month and a half. So by the time it comes around, hopefully I'll be ready to go. So, so I do have one other news story though, since you did cover the Fallout one. It's just occurred to me. DC Heroes and Villains unite in a new game starting next month, so November, to mobile platforms. So I know we talked a little bit about mobile games today under DC Legends. And basically, if you've played the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, either on Facebook or PC or on your mobile devices, it's going to be very similar to that, but using the DC stuff, which is good because Disney pulled the Marvel Ultimate Alliance game from the app stores. So this will be a nice little supplement there, but it's going to play the very same way, where you can build your team, of Superman partnering up with Lex Luthor and Solomon Grundy to fight Necron. So It'll be pretty fun. It will be free to play. I'm sure there'll be stuff to buy as well, as we've seen all these games, but something cool and worth checking out. I did pre-reserve it, which you can do on the App Store for Apple and Android. And if you pre-reserve the game, essentially what's going to happen, it's going to let you know when it comes out and install it for you. But if you pre-reserved, you'll get a special Wonder Woman version of her. I don't really know what the difference is, but you get all exclusive character if you're pre-registered for it. So I did that as well. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the show, boys and girls. So before we leave, we like to, as always, tell you about some stuff you should check out, whether on our site or on other sites, with the plugs. So Nathan, why don't you go first, buddy?
Thank you. I am still covering Sherlock over on That's Entertaining. We are moving along. We are getting close to 100 episodes. So that's awesome. So if you're looking forward to Doctor Strange, that's kind of what drove us to do Cumberbatch with the Cumber block over there. So feel free to come over and check it out. That's Entertaining. And I'd also like to mention that I am doing my Extra Life stream on November 11th. I had to push it back 1 week because of unexpected work travel. However, it will be October 11th. I will do my 24-hour marathon this year.
November 11th.
November 11th. Yes, sir. Thank you. 11/11 for this year.
My birthday, by the way.
Oh, really? Well,
yes.
Congratulations.
Sure, we'll go with that.
So it's going to be November 11th, and if you have not yet done so, please feel free to check out the website extra-life.org/participant/nt, and you can go there and see why I'm kind of doing it this year, what it's all about. Spread the word, donate if you can. It's all going to help the kids of the Children's Hospital of Illinois. So if you can find it in your heart to do so, please do so. And that's all I got.
Think of the children. So then let's go to Seth. Is there anything you'd like to plug, or where can people find you?
Sure, just a couple things. If you go to the PSVG website, playsomevideogames.com, I did post a couple of new articles this week. One, I reviewed Dear Esther on the PS4. I had the PlayStation 4 version of it was. The one thing I did not try any of they have some developer commentaries. I didn't do any of those. I literally, as soon as I finished playing the game, the credits rolled, I exited it out and deleted it from the system. So the reviews on there, I do again recommend that people play it if they like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture and Firewatch and those kind of games, just to kind of see where over the past 8 years those games have come from. I also had fun writing the review and just tried to do something a little bit different with the writing of it, rather than just spending 400 words ragging on a game. Tried to make it a little more interesting. So I had fun writing that. Hope to have reviews done quick, video up on that by the time this posts on Sunday or Monday. So that should be up on our YouTube channel also. And then the other thing that I wrote just went up in the past few days is it's titled PSVR is Sony's Big Fall exclusive. Just the idea that I know that there aren't, Sony doesn't have exclusive games this month other than Tomb Raider coming out only to PlayStation 4 this month. But doesn't really have any exclusive games just to the PS4 other than this whole slew of games that are coming out for PSVR, and just the idea that that's really that's the exclusive, and it's just what we've missed, that they do have this huge giant elephant in the room that is an exclusive. It's a whole new console experience rather than even just a game. So I have an opinion piece on that, and then continuing my NBA 2K17 series on YouTube. a lot of that is probably going to slow down, as I mentioned earlier. Expecting our third daughter to be born within the next few days here. So some of this stuff is going to slow down for me, but I had a lot of fun writing those 2 articles this week.
Absolutely. And then Kyle.
So I actually was really bummed because I was just thinking about, like, man, Seth and I did that, joint piece on No Man's Sky. We should really do another joint piece. And then I was thinking about, oh man, he's having a kid soon, so that's probably not going to work so well. So he also did forget to mention that there are 2 PS4 exclusives coming out this month that are not PS4, with World of Final Fantasy coming out at the very end of the month, and Dragon Quest Builders coming out next week. Which actually, and apparently, Dragon Quest Builders is fantastic. So yeah, for me, look for a review of Strike Factor X very soon. I will also be finishing up Zenith as soon as I can, with a review being posted about that. My plan is to hopefully get an initial impressions piece about Mafia 3 up sometime next week. And then I'm going to be jumping into Tomb Raider and and Dragon Quest Builders next Tuesday. And then my PSVR unit comes on Thursday. So I have to figure out a way to play all this stuff and get stuff done for the website. Oh, and, work my job and do those things too. So hopefully I will be churning out a good amount of content here moving forward relating to all of those things. But if push comes to shove, I'll probably focus on the PSVR stuff just so we can get some content out about that. And then you can follow me on Twitter and on PSN, become my friend at Psychocross, CYCOCROSS.
Excellent. So, as always, want to remind you to check out the website at playsomevideogames.com. You read the new reviews. We said, Dear Esther's up there, and Origami was posted this week, actually this morning, as the day we're recording, by Jason. So check that out as well. You can email us always at podcast@playsomevideogames.com. Reach out to us on Twitter at PSVG. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/playsomevideogames. Obviously, we have our YouTube and Twitch channels up there as well, so be sure to check those out. So, as Seth mentioned, this is probably the last time for a little while we're going to hear his dulcet tones, if you will, and his oozing enthusiasm. So he will still obviously be a presence, probably more so just writing articles for the time being, but he will be back, I assure you, or I threaten you, depending on how you want to look at that. So with that being said, with Seth, taking a backseat, if you will, for now, and our recent growth we've been experiencing here on the website and our relationship with publishers and stuff, we're getting slammed with work. So we are expanding our staff currently. So we'd like to announce, you may have heard his name a few times on the podcast, one of our regular listeners, Josh, is officially joining the staff. So look for his first piece to be out probably sometime next week or this week as you're hearing this podcast. And there will be some others coming on down the line. We are looking to expand more into the board game division as well as mobile games because we haven't really talked about mobile games that much other than Pokemon Go and some exclusions today, but we are working on getting some staff members to tackle those items as well. So exciting things going on. I think that rounds up the show. Pretty sure.
Diplomatic immunity.
And you actually behaved yourself. You didn't have to enforce diplomatic immunity.
Well, I was going to, but then, I felt like I would be convivial tonight and just relish in everybody's greatness as they await.
Well said. Well said. Very, very, very punny, Nathan. So yes, as we all have a full plate of gaming to go ahead, we will never stop gaming. So we'd like to remind you, boys and girls, never stop gaming.